that you can be able to represent a face and an attitude that will lift millions of people from the bottom of the pyramid. This proverb tells us that you are the strongest pillar upon which the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals rests. This proverb tells us that you are the biggest stakeholder that can nurture a culture of lawfulness and make this becomes the norm across the entire world and dovetail down to regions across the globe. Distinguished delegates, you stand to benefit the most if the Sustainable Development Goals are implemented, but you also stand to lose the most if the Sustainable Development Goals are not implemented in a form that can be able to lift people from the bottom of the pyramid. And I will tell you why. As we're speaking today, in the African continent, 60% of the population is youthful. But at the same time, it is paradoxical that 60% of this very population is unemployed. But when you look at the challenges that the world is facing today, and you put this within the context of the theme of this East African Model UN, I want you just to take a moment and imagine $1.45 trillion US dollars. Just take a moment and imagine $1.45 trillion US dollars. This is a staggering amount. The staggering amount is the cause of crimes to African economies. The staggering amount is the amount of money that has been lost as a result of crime in the entire African continent. This amount exceeds the amount Africa needs nearly to adequately implement the Sustainable Development Goals, which is $1.2 trillion US dollars each and every year. This cause of crime has increased from $150 billion US dollars recorded over 10 years ago, a costly trend that urgently needs to change if the continent and the entire world is to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. You before us here today are the critical agents of this change. You are the critical agents of this change because you are the solutions to the challenges that the world faces today. You are the solutions, you are victors. And you can be able to chart a pathway that can be able not only to ensure that transformational change become a reality, but one that actually makes meaningful impact in people's lives. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to contribute to nurturing this solution, and a big thank you to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime for spearheading this solution process. Please give a round of applause. Distinguished delegates, too modest, a man goes hungry. Too modest, a man goes hungry. While unjustifiable under any circumstances, this African proverb analogizes the survival mentality. This African proverb analogizes the survival mentality that is the leading driver of crime anywhere in the world. It analogizes this, and most importantly reminds us that meaningful peace and justice will only be realized when every citizen has a decent shot at assessing social and economic rights. The level of deprivation of people anywhere in the world is unacceptable by any measure. It is unacceptable by any standard, and it constitutes an intolerable breach of most fundamental basic rights according to every living human being on this earth, according to any human being or any person by the Creator. I'm talking about the right to food. I'm talking about the right to health. I'm talking about the right to education and the right to the source of income, among key ones which constitute the Bill of Rights as enshrined in Articles 22 to 27 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is especially so in the African continent, where as we speak today, 240 million citizens are going to bed with their stomach aching of hunger. This is especially so in the African continent, where as we speak today, 620 million citizens are energy impoverished. This is especially so here in the African continent, where 50% of our mothers bury their kids before they reach the age of 5. This is especially so in the African continent, where as we're speaking today, unemployment is at its highest, where we're talking about up to 12 million youth getting into the labor market and competing with just 3 million jobs. And this number is going to exceed all numbers across the entire world in the next 17 years, because we're having about 350 million youth getting into the labor market and competing with less jobs. distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, achieving these rights then become a formidable strategy towards ensuring entrenching peace and security to ensure lawfulness becomes a global norm, becomes a continental norm, as enshrined in the Doha Declaration. And this is the core of my message to you here today. Distinguished delegates, every adversity carries with it the seeds of equal or greater benefit. Amidst challenges, there are opportunities. In the context of our discussion today, this African proverb is telling us one thing. It is telling us that challenges are not a cause for despair or a cause for anxiety. This proverb is telling us that challenges are disguised opportunities. Opportunities for greatness to those who commit to solving them. Opportunities to be seized by the passionate and hopeful, youthful generation like you seated here today, who can strategically build and apply your skills to be able to solve the challenges that the world is facing today. You, just like yourselves, have what it takes to be able to do this. And your essence here today in this East African Model UN is not just only about to also deliberate on resolutions, but at the same time to ask yourself what you can be able to do with what you have, which is you. Because you sit here today, you are the biggest blessing that has ever happened to this planet Earth. And the solutions we seek are you. You are the solutions. We should not look anywhere else because you are the solution. We are the solution that can be able to solve the problem, to put poverty on the run and prosperity into the cockpit of progress. We are the solutions that can be able to take food insecurity, to ensure food secures home, to ensure wealth creation for the youth. These lies with each and every one of us seated here today, and you give us hope because you have everything it takes. You have everything it takes. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, you have everything it takes. Just take a moment and imagine 720 million units of anything. 720 million units of anything. Just imagine. What do you think that would mean? Just imagine. Imagine one word that can best describe 720 million units of anything. If your guess is as good as mine, you must have thought of power. Did anyone here thought of power? Did you think of power? If your guess is as good as mine, you must have thought of power. To an enterprise, 720 million units of stock speaks of potentials for billions in revenue. That is power. To someone who has 720 million followers in Twitter, he or she can be able to reach or to pass information to a broader community or to the entire globe in just a click of a button. To that person, that could be power. But what we need to understand, distinguished delegates, is that all this misses the point. All this misses the point. The most compelling form of power, a gold mine that the world, and more so Africa, has been blind to, is you the youth. It is you the youth. Your ingenuity, your creativity, your energy, your ability to be able to think beyond others, that represents power. That is the most compelling form of power that do exist, and it is still on tap. It is on tap. Your skills and your talents, your ongoing initiatives, your ingenuity, as I've said, your energy and creativity that you represent today represents power. In the African continent today, 60% of 1.2 billion citizens, that's 720 million. That is power. That is power of ideas. That is power of skills. That is power in talents. That is power in creativity. These money can buy. Distinguished delegates, you seated here today, and the hundreds of millions of you across the entire globe today represent that power. You, the youth, can no longer then be engaged from a position of convenience. You can no longer be engaged from a position of convenience and appeasement sake. You can no longer be engaged from a position of just being footnotes in the chronicles of global development. That time has long passed because you are the tip of the spear and you are the solutions to global challenges and more so to Africa's socio-economic challenges. Distinguished delegates, you urgently then need to be unleashed for action because we no longer have the luxury of discussing, of debating, and begging for good in the world and more so in the African continent. You are the solution bearers. You are the solution bearers. And you are not victims to be pitied, but you are victors. Distinguished delegates, you are victors and you are the change bearers, especially for the SDGs, because you carry the SDG charge, one that will provide a shot at social and economic justice for each citizen in the entire world and pave the way to entrenching a culture of lawfulness. And I will tell you why with a very simple example. A recent Forbes magazine called for the most promising young entrepreneurs in Africa, attracted over 250 entries from 23 countries. Out of these, a total of 30 enterprises run by young entrepreneurs under the age of 35 years were nominated, having annual revenues of over $100,000. Just this minimal sample is responsible for adding not less than 3 million in annual revenues to the continent's economy. I'm not even talking of youth-led initiatives that are not just initiatives, but initiatives where the ideas have originated from this very youth. For example, when you take Kenya, the mobile money, the M-Pesa, mobile money innovation, which started off with youth right here in Kenya, or the Kado part of Cameroon, Africa's first ever touchscreen medical